Tell me when you're ready, Bianca.
Ready.
Shall we mute?
No, no, no. We'll leave
Okay.
it. I think it's discussion. Oh no, maybe everyone but Trevor and Baden mute, and for the moment. So, ladies and gentlemen, and assembled company, welcome once more to the World Storytelling Cafe and Monday night, where we are connecting the world by story. And tonight we are celebrating the great tradition of Carnival. And with me is someone who not only knows more about it than me, but has got much better context than me. And he's a regular on the Storytelling Cafe. Baden Prince, can you give a big round of applause for Baden Prince? Are you going to kick it off, Baden?
Okay. To get things started, I'm gonna recite or try to recite a poem of mine that I wrote many years ago. And when I was growing up, I grew up in a street with a steel band just at the bottom of the road, down in an unsalubrious part of town called Point. And we lived on the road, on the corner of the road that divided the city from that part of town. And my grandmother made it, who brought me up, she made it her appointed duty to keep me out of that part of town where all the bad stuff happened.
Yeah.
And she knew what she was doing because that part of town had an almost magnetic attraction for me. And coming around to Carnival time, there was a steel band that used to practice in a yard, maybe 150, 200 yards from our house. And the rhythms of that steel band and the rhythms of Carnival and the whole spirit of Carnival is something that I remember vividly as a child growing up. And I always wanted to be part of it. And um, it wasn't it wasn't really on, but it's never left me, and I've tried to capture some of that in this piece, which I hope you'll enjoy. It's called simply Carnival. Carnival nowadays, man, it's so commercial, says the purist. The whole thing now is just a bloated spectacle, far removed from roots which lie in the, how to put it now, in the unfettered exuberance of a people celebrating emancipation. Oh, boy, that's a whole lot of big words. Carnival nowadays, man, strictly for tourists, says the cynic, heading away from town to enjoy a beach picnic. But me, I remember Carnival for Juve, spirit wild, joyous, sheer abandon, screaming sounds and colors clashing, eyes and faces shining, rum and sweat from bodies flowing, cow horn, flute and trumpet blowing. Men in sequined clown suit costumes made of brightly colored satin, reds, yellows, stripes, patches, tiny mirrors, catching and reflecting dazzling sun, faces masked. Those gauze masks used to terrify me while I stood watching them performing ritual dances, slow, entrancing, punctuated by the snapping crack of a clap whip. Don't get too close. Boy, excitement. Steel band coming down the road. Look, hundreds of men and women dancing linked in lines across the street, arm around neck or waist. 1,000 footsteps, chip, chip, chipping to the beat. Others delirious in heat, jumping up, dancing wild and crazy, thinking life is Sweet. You're sitting on your front step, casual, taking in this passing revelry, and suddenly you hear, Iron Band passing! And round the corner comes a jam band, a tight heaving knot of human flesh, sensuously intertwined, bouncing, bumping, grinding, jumping, man and woman, hoarse in unison, shouting their primal chant and tuneless singing, driven by pulsating rhythm, bass drum pounding, iron ringing, boom, boom, chang, 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 boom, boom, chang, 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 boom, boom, chang, chang. Yeah, I remember Carnival. Not for the endless crowns and competitions, but, oh, how does it go? Aha, yeah. For the unfettered exuberance of a people celebrating emancipation or joy in freedom, stated simply. That's what Carnival means, at least to me. Thank you.
Whoa,
Right.
whoa. That's worth the see. You know that should be out there. That should be out there. That's such a fantastic
Brilliant.
poem.
Thank you. Back to
You
that.
know, and it captures and that whole sense of really that carnival that comes from, you know, from Fat Tuesday, where, you know, I mean the earliest carnivals in the Caribbean were in Trinidad, so sort of with the and it was a continuation of, it was a sort of Africanization of, if you like, of Fat Tuesday with the French settlers in Trinidad. And that French tradition of topsy-turvy, where, you know, the beggar becomes king for the day. And you know, and in some ways, you know, and I think there's the whole Carnival King, Carnival Queen of UK Carnival, you know, which really has its height here in the 50s and 60s, you know, and I think it was important for post-war, where it was kind of drab, you know, and there were certain days that you look forward to, and the Carnival parade, you know, with the floats, and I remember embarking sort of in the early 50s, and then then again in Harlow, and then it kind and even, you know, in Ipswich, where, you know, the which became Ipswich Music Day in the end, but there was the carnival procession would end up in Christchurch Park, and and that procession, you know, was the procession for me. Carnival was always the procession. And strange, you know, strange enough, Caribbean Carnival starts, although the first Notting Hill was in '66, the first Caribbean Carnival in this country was in '59, at St Pancras, and the lineup was phenomenal. But it was run by Claudia Jones, who was the editor of the West Indian Gazette, and she was the founder of Notting Hill Carnival as well, which was centered on the Mangrove Restaurant in what is now Yuppie Land, and nothing disparaging about you know, about All Saints Road, but I remember All Saints Road when it was rammed. And, you know, there'd be culture shops everywhere, and you know, and there was the old police van around, and there was, I mean, it was just, and that was outside Carnival. It wasn't even during Carnival time. So you know, but what has survived as the biggest street parade in Europe, if not the world, is Notting Hill Carnival, and started by a bunch of radicals down at the Mangrove Restaurant that the police were always trying to close down. And I'm going to finish my chunk of this with a poem, short poem, much shorter than Baden's. I used to be a youth worker at the Caribbean Youth Club at the Caribbean Centre in Ipswich, and we took a minibus down to Notting Hill Carnival in 1989. And so this is just a little thing on that one. She walked 3 miles, full of smiles, centerpiece for the band, costume wider than she was tall and taller than it was wide. Took the Chinese child in her arms and held it by the hand while the mother captured the moment. What a picture! Put it upon the front page. Picking up the paper in the morning, I was met with riot shield and stick. The night before, as white wagons with wire mesh on the windscreens cut through the procession, an old man who was leaving anyway, speaking to no one in particular, left the words, South Africa, hanging in the air. She walked 3 miles, full of smiles, through Europe's biggest open-air event. And every eye was hers for a moment. And the picture is for a tomorrow that is infinitely longer than the next day.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hand back to Baden now, because you've managed to get hold of someone really special, haven't you? And you're going to talk a little bit about him, because he's sitting way outside telephone contact right now. You know.
That's right. I had the good fortune to make the acquaintance of this fellow by the name of Tobago Crusoe, who is an old school Calypsonian. He actually won the Calypso Monarch competition in Trinidad in 1983, having tried for quite a few years. And he said, the day I win the Calypso Monarch competition is a singing competition to find the best Calypsonian in the island, and every carnival has it. And he said, the day I win it is the day I stop competing. He won it in 83, and he was true to his word. He never competed again. I was fortunate to share a stage with him in Hackney and make his acquaintance. And we were hoping to feature him with us today. In fact, we will be featuring him, but at one remove, because he's currently in the Caribbean in Tobago. And the connections, unfortunately, meant that we weren't able to interview him live. But what we do have is some video footage of him in performance. And I'm going to speak to a couple of these clips, which to me really are brilliant examples of the true Calypsonian, the old school Calypsonian's art. And I think we'll start with a fairly light-hearted one, which is him live in performance to an audience. There were about 50, 60 people there, and I was one of them. And I filmed part of it, and he very kindly gave his permission for us to use this. So over to Bianca. I hope you're going to enjoy this, and then I'll say a little bit about what it represents. Tobago Crusoe.
When talking about smart man, no day you can beat a Bajan and a Trinidadian, living in a house once with a Vincentian. The three of them, they get hungry. They have one bread but too small for three. So they decide they will go to bed, and who get the best dream will eat the bread. The Trinidadian declare he dream he went up to heaven and in line with an archangel. The Vincentian declare he went to a dance and he's called with woman like hell. Well, if you went to heaven and you went to dance, that is what the Major said. I thought you both was coming back, so I'll wake up and eat the bread. They catch the Bajan man speeding in the highway the other morning. The sign say 50 an hour. The Bajan man driving 20 over. police car trying to catch him, but faster and faster the Bajan going. When they did catch up on the Bajan, the police asked him for an explanation. Bajan said, well, please, Mr. Officer, try and understand. My wife leave me about a month ago. I'm going to live with a policeman. I tell myself I don't want to see this woman again in my life. So I was speeding because I thought was the policeman bringing back my wife.
I don't think any translations needed, but that's to me is a brilliant example of one aspect of the Calypsonian's art, the Calypsonian as entertainer, but in a sardonic sort of tongue-in-cheek way, passing comment on, in this case, the first one is, you know, that inter-island rivalry, which people from which island are smarter than which, and the small island people trying to outwit the people from the bigger territories. And that's just an absolute classic. It's not even a classic Caribbean joke. It's I've told it as a story and had a commentary back from one of the members of the audience who said, we have a story very similar to that in Ireland. And it's that universal thing of people just being clever, you know, using their wits to outwit one another. The Bajan man trying to explain to the policeman why he was driving 20 miles over the limit. Classic, absolute classic. And this guy, before we move on to the next clip, is a master exponent of the art of extempo. Like, people listen to rap music and think, oh, it's fantastic, these young guys just making up lyrics off the top of their heads. That art form is as old as the hills. And back in the day, before calypsos were structured, calypso competitions consisted of two guys going up back to back, creating verses on the spot. And it was called extempo or extemporization. And Crusoe is a known master of the art. And it's one of the things I was sorry that he's not here tonight. We might have got to hear him do that. We've got another clip. I'm going to shut up now and let the master do the talking. So let's have another clip from Crusoe.
Kaiso could be political, but I don't want to touch the politics in this country. But as a Kaisonian, you can't stop by and see things happening. David called a referendum because he didn't know that the people of Great Britain would tell Europe they want to go. When the result came out, David couldn't believe it. So the man threw in the towel, and just so David quit. Sitting down in the back bench, people start to forget about he. So he decided to leave Parliament and disappear completely. David thought Brexit was Goliath, and he would have shared some licks. But David was wrong. Goliath licked him down and threw him clean out of politics.
Yeah. Nothing further needs to be said. This is a man picking up on the news of the day, and again coming at that slightly left field angle and giving it to you with wit, with humor, and no small amount of style. And on that, that's another very important aspect of the Calypsonian's art, because back in the day, you're talking about a time when newspapers weren't widely available, and indeed in countries where mass literacy perhaps hadn't yet arrived. So the Calypsonian had a very important role to play as a social and political commentator, bringing the news, national and international, to the people, explaining it to them, giving them an angle on it. And the Calypsonian, a social and political educator and commentator. And I think that's illustrated beautifully by this next and last piece that we're going to see from Crusoe, where he touches on the Windrush.
I was sitting comfortably back there in my country. Is you come down with your big Windrush ship and tell me that the war is over, we have to build back Great Britain. As part of the empire, well, we need your contribution. So I came over and I walk on my soul case, still you get what you want. Now you're telling me and my children that we are illegal immigrants. You get what you want from me, so you saying get out. You no longer need me in this country, you say get out. After working for you for all them years, you say me children they born and grow. Well, how can you be ungrateful, so telling me now I have to go? After the war, your whole system was in tatters. Some of us came as nurses, some came as doctors. On the road we were your bus drivers and conductors. We walk on the rail and some of us were train drivers. What that you refuse to do, we came here and get it done. Now you're telling me and my children that we can be British citizens. You get what you want from me, so you're saying get out. You no longer need me in this country, you say get out. After working for you for all them years, you see me children they born and grow. You ungrateful son of a so and so telling me now I have to go.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, a vote of thanks for Tobago Crusoe.
Whoa. Fantastic. Baden,
Yeah.
you did so well to get that, you know, and get permission to show everything.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna leave the big city. I'm gonna leave the big city. I'm going up the road because you know, and Trevor would have, you know, would have come across this, you know, and you. I mean, I've been to so many events in London. They say, "What? There's Caribbean people in Ipswich?" So, and yeah, from time. So and one of the things, you know, I amongst the, you know, I all sorts of my life was crisscrossed since I came up to Ipswich in the well, early on in I was in Suffolk in the early 60s, and then I was back really from the 70s to a few years ago. And I just when I worked at the hospital, it was, you know, it was loads of nurses, Trinidadian nurses, and buses. But one of the reasons that people came was because you could get housing. You could go to you could get better wages in Coventry and London, but you couldn't get anywhere to live. At the engineering works in Ipswich, the wages were terrible. In fact, you know, I mean, just as we're doing stories, a friend of both of ours, Dad, sat down with me. And he was explaining his first day. He'd left a good job in Jamaica, and he went to work in Cranes, which was an engineering company. And he was a young man, you know, young man full of dreams. And he came here, and at the end of his first week, they took out the money for his coat, his overalls. They took out the money for his boots, and they gave him ½ crown, which is about 12.5p, which is, you know, like, what's it, 5 lei to a pound? Yeah, it's not even 1 lei. And and he sat on Electric House, which was the bus station, local buses, and he sat there and he cried. And you know, that was kind of the back, but within that community came out 2 steel bands. I'm going to hand over to Trevor Jones, who's actually kept that tradition going, and talk about steel in Ipswich, and then take it to the Youth Caribbean. Your youth steel band.
Yeah, steel bands in Ipswich. Well, as you probably remember, John, there was a couple of bands, Trinity Steel Band and Caribbean Steel Band, which came about in Ipswich in the early days, and some of them still playing today, but a few of them, their sons and daughters as well, they sort of took up the steel band, still playing as well, and they formed their own sort of separate band. And we had a Caribbean centre in Ipswich, which was it's a community centre for everybody, really. But there was lots of stuff going on down there. There was lots of dances and stuff like that. And I was actually there with work, because I worked for a media company, community media company, and I was commissioned to go down there and actually deliver some IT training to a youth club, basically, some young people down there. So I was down there, and it was a 10-week thing, and it was 1 week I went down there and no one was there to open up to get to the rooms and stuff like that. So I was just waiting on the person to come with the key to open up. And I was in there, but the actual room, the person who had the key to the actual room I needed to get into, they weren't there. So I was just walking around, having a nose around the place, and I went into this room and I saw loads of cases all stacked up in a corner, and went and had a nose, and I thought, it looked like drums, steel drums. So when the guy who opened up for me, I asked them what's going on with those then, and they said, they tried to get a steel group going years ago, but they couldn't get anyone to run it or to stick with it. They actually did have a guy from Coventry who came down, and he was their mentor for about a month, as much as they could afford, I think. But they couldn't actually get any adult to take this up and run with it. So I said, because I was a trombonist, I was playing in ska bands, reggae bands, stuff like that. So any musical challenge, I was up for. I didn't know anything about steel pans, so I said, well, I'll have a go if give me a chance to have a look at these things and see what I can do with them. So it sort of started from there. So I got them out. I advertised, the club advertised that we were starting a steel pan group, and they got the mentor back down, got some money from local council to get the mentor down, because I had to be taught myself because I didn't know anything. But it was musical, so I knew my scales, so I figured out, you can play a scale on this thing, and basically anything which is audible you can play on this. All the notes were there. So it started from there, and it was a long road. You had kids turning up or not turning up. Some of this was down to parents not being able to bring them and stuff like that. But the commitment just wasn't there. In the space of probably 4 months, there was about 30 kids who actually came down here and either stayed 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then left. There were quite a few kids who wanted instant sort of being able to play. You know, they wanted results straight away.
Sorry.
As you know, oh, hello, who's that? With musical instruments, yeah, it's something you gotta stick with. So I actually ended up with a core of about 8 players. My daughter, she was interested as well, so she came down. She was sort of 9 years old, and yeah, we just started, and it kept going, and it kept going for a few years. The Caribbean Centre actually ran into trouble with finances, so they were due to close, and we didn't have anywhere to go. So I actually put in for a grant and was able to buy some more pans and find another place where we could rehearse. So we're talking from 2005. That's when it originally all started. And then it was very successful between the sort of years 2010. We had about 8 good years of solid playing. So 2010 to 2018, we had committed players. The core players who had been there, my son joined as well, and they were professionals. They could play better than me, as you'll see, and they were very, very committed. And we would go out and do loads and loads of shows. You know, summertime. That was another problem, because I started to get on the parents' nerves, because I needed all the kids all summer to do all of these gigs, and yeah, they loved it as well. And it was a great thing for Ipswich, a great thing for the whole county, really, because we went out of county as well, and people were just amazed with these instruments. You know, the latest modern instrument of the 20th century, and what, you know, the tunes could be played on them, and the actual skills, expertise that the kids showed on them. So that was the start of the Ipswich Youth Steel Band.
Well, should we hear a bit?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, well, should we hear a bit? And then, because I think you know, you were rebuilding the whole thing when COVID hit. So
when COVID hit, yeah. So we went into a lull, like I say, about 2 years ago, down to about 4 or 5 players, because they all grow up and then they go away and do silly things like get jobs and stuff like that, or go off to university and stuff like that. So they, you know, we lost some, you know, great experienced players. So I was basically starting from scratch again, and I had evenings where there was, you know, people say they didn't turn up, they didn't turn up. I had many evenings where there was only 1 or 2 people turn up, and I still had to pay for the rehearsal room. And then I found a local guy who just started up a studio, and he was really all up for it to help us out, because I couldn't afford to pay for where we were rehearsing with only sort of 2 people turning up. So we relocated there, and then yeah, that's it all just happened. I say quickly. It didn't happen quickly, but it sort of rejuvenated, and all of a sudden I went from having 2 players or 1 player turn up to having, I mean, this guy's studio was quite small, and it was fine when I had two people, and then I went from that to 4 people, and then 10.
So great.
Yeah.
But right now with COVID we've
COVID
got
has
2, haven't we? We've got you and your daughter.
and my son. Yeah, my daughter. So what you'll see in the video is my daughter and my son, and they actually haven't played for years. You know, I had to convince them that we need to do this for John. So yeah, we dusted off some pans, and they really loved it and enjoyed it doing it. So here you go. It's and we used to go out as a trio as well, you know, doing weddings and stuff like that. So we had another name called the Pans of Steel. So that's the name that they went out under. So take it away. Hi, I'm Trevor Jones, and I run the Ipswich Youth Steel Band. Started in 2005, and we've been through loads and loads of players, and these 2 joined when they were that high. Well, I was not you. Over to you, Ashton.
I'm Ashton Jones, and I was in the Ipswich Youth Steel Band years ago. And had a great time. It was amazing playing these wonderful, authentic pans from the Caribbean, from Trinidad and Tobago originally. I play the tenor pan, and it's great fun. I very much enjoy it.
Hi, I'm Rianne Jones, and I've been playing the tenor pan since I was 9 years old.
There you go. So there you have it. Ipswich have a steel band. Check us out.
Fantastic.
Uh,
Trevor,
just
that was gorgeous. That was great.
beautiful.
And you know, and do thank your children. I've got to
Mm.
say this, you know, most musicians bring their children in as sidemen or side women in their band. Trevor's does the reverse of that. Ashton actually is a brilliant soul singer and was really doing really well. Cheltenham Jazz Festival, Ronnie Scott's, all those things, and COVID sort of just slowed things down.
Oh,
But but Ashton's the band leader. The band's called the Ashton Jones Project, and he has his dad in as a sideman on trombone in the brass section, which I think is exactly as it should be.
He's turned it around. Remember, I had the reggae band, United Reggae Band, and I had him as the drummer. So
okay.
he's
Okay. So this is Ashton's revenge.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Trevor,
Yeah,
that boy's got music in his bones, man. He was making that pan sing.
He was.
Yeah.
I don't know where. Yeah,
No.
he's. And the thing is, he wasn't really that interested in it when I first started the youth band. And I think since my daughter started to go, and he saw, oh, this looks interesting, and then he just came along, and that,
Yeah. Not threatening not to feed him unless he joined in was probably something to do with it.
But the two of them together, when they're they just, I don't know, they just read of each other, their brother and sister. They just read off each other.
They were gelling. They were gelling beautifully. Yeah. So just thank them. I mean, Trevor is a very fine musician in his own right, and as I've known him as a musician for about 34, maybe longer years, and brilliant musician. But you can't have Carnival. The main thing about Carnival, or Carnival as we're talking about it in Notting Hill, we'll talk about just another one that's possibly coming up this year at the end that I don't think has been cancelled yet. But for the moment, if you go to Notting Hill Carnival, you know, apart from the sound systems in the street and the steel and everything else, it's the band, it's the procession. And now, you didn't do any work on this. Actually, Bianca did all the work on this next one. But we're gonna let you introduce it, Baden, and then we're gonna hand over to Bianca, who really did the hard work here. Yeah. So what have we got coming up, Baden?
There's a young friend of mine called Katazina, and she's going to talk about her involvement in Carnival. And this is really interesting for two reasons. One is, I'm going to hark back briefly to the pan. A lot of people perhaps don't often appreciate the sheer craft and expertise that goes into producing pans, tuning them, as well as obviously learning to play them and to play them with that degree of skill. And the same applies to the bands and the floats, the parade. The amount of love and artistry and skill that goes into producing these costumes is one of the things that we hopefully will gain an appreciation of. The other thing that really intrigues me about this is I came back to London in '76, which was the first year that there was trouble at Notting Hill Carnival. And every year, if you follow the news media or certain sections of it, your impression of Carnival is that there's this alien invasion of a very sweet and suave part of West London, which is resented by the native population, i.e. the English, and who have to tolerate this swarm of hooligans and lunatics and criminals that descend on it every year. And this video, for me, gives the lie to that and really talks about what Carnival is all about. I hope you enjoy it.
Hi everyone, my name is Kate and I'm born and bred from London. I've been a Notting Hill Carnival goer for probably on and off around 10-15 years. But for the last 5 years, I've been a very active member of Bacchanalia Mass Band. which is Trinidadian-led, very innovative and very popular. I would also say daring mass bands. So for those of you who don't know, mass bands, we're the ones at Carnival with costumes. So think feathers, headpieces, big wings, vibrant costumes, color, dance, music, but mostly I would say smiles and love, actually. For me, being part of Bacchanalia has been probably one of the best things I've ever done in my life. And that comes from someone who's lived in Uganda for 2 years and climbed Kilimanjaro. So if I'm saying that being part of this group is so significant like that, you can imagine it's quite fantastic. Since I joined, I've been welcomed with open arms. Obviously, as you can see by looking at me, I'm not somebody of West Indian heritage. I'm a white British female. And just the way in which everyone has accepted me, welcomed me, taken me into the family, taught me everything about Trini culture, food, a little bit about rum, a bit more than what I knew already. Soca music, which is now a big part of my life as well. It's been absolutely fantastic, and I really feel very passionately about Black culture, Black music, Black arts, and to be accepted into something that's so vibrant, such as Notting Hill Carnival, has been really special for me. I work in public health, so I wasn't surprised that Carnival wasn't going ahead. But regardless of still knowing that public events of a large scale, such as how many million people in the streets of London every August, was not sensible with, you know, a respiratory infectious pandemic, the day that I saw the post from my band saying that we weren't going ahead, I cried.
Yeah, I believe you, and I think everyone is.
I understood and I respected it, and it was exactly the right decision. And I had no problem with that whatsoever, but my heart was broken.
And I think all the people that usually go to this festival feel the same like you do. It's something special going on August in.
Absolutely. It's, for me, it's like your best friend's wedding every year.
Yeah.
That level of emotion and importance and celebration. Months of build up for getting ready. For me, that often means reducing how much food I'm eating and going to the gym twice a day. I definitely don't have Carnival ready.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel Carnival ready. But in terms of, it's so many months of preparation and of excitement. And you're texting your friends, oh, I got my new glitter. It's going to go so good with the costume. You're buying some new trainers to go with the outfit. Just lots of little things that happen. It's akin to your best friend's wedding. Same level of emotion. And then the celebration of coming together of friends you've known a while, meeting new people, and then invariably discovering how much that people you know other people that you know. So there's strange things like that happen, which I guess is not uncommon in certain communities, because quite often you may have similar interests anyways. But there's a lot of people that I've met through Carnival who I could have met somewhere else because we have so many mutual friends already.
Yeah. And do you think this bond that it's made between the people that are going to the festival, the bands and everything, how will be affected because this year is not taking place?
So I think in terms of all the build-up excitement, which obviously isn't happening, I think people will be missing that emotionally. And one of the things that we make a big deal of in my band every year is the launch party, which happens between around February, March, April, maybe happens in May sometimes. So there's always the build up and excitement of when is launch. You see your friends at launch, then you start to talk who's getting which costume. Somebody can't come to launch and everyone's sending them photos. All of those things obviously haven't happened. So there's some level of contact which in order to maintain some of your friendships, you're having to make different types of contact. So you're sort of talking to your friends about, I don't know, maybe the latest soca music that's coming out, but without the kind of the carnival festival event happening alongside that. So it's a bit of a disjointed thing, I think. One of my best friends is someone I met through Carnival. And so we're in constant contact all the time. So there's been some chat a little bit about Carnival and the heartbreak around it, but we've talked about other parts of life. Indeed, she's planning her wedding. So, you know, there's another party to look forward to there. But yeah, in terms of that thing of meeting your friends to pick up your costume, meeting your friends early in the morning, traveling together, helping each other put on your eyelashes, all of those sorts of very, sometimes quite intimate things around friendship. So the friend I've mentioned, Mona, I've got dressed ready with her in her flat in the past, and you're just in bikini and you're dealing with, you know, needing to check that everything is looking good, helping each other put on eyelashes. It's a very intimate friendship in that sense. And when you think about the fact of the costumes are very big in this way, but in terms of what you actually have on your body, it's quite small. So it's basically bikinis, or maybe a bit more than that, but it's, you know, not a lot of clothing for us to be wearing. And in that way, you feel very comfortable around those friends who are sharing that experience, because you're there to celebrate your body and to celebrate the culture, West Indian culture, Trinidadian culture, Guyanese culture. But you're doing it in a very safe space where everyone is telling you look fantastic. So anyone that maybe feels a bit self-conscious about a certain body part, your friends are telling you, but you look beautiful, you look fantastic. Oh my gosh, the costume looks great. Your shoes match your headpiece. And you just feel very empowered and comfortable. And so for me, there's a big part of playing mass, so wearing costume at Carnival, is this thing of body empowerment, body image empowerment, and body positivity.
Makes you more confident.
Absolutely. And in many respects, I would say the women who are less conventional sizes in terms of fashion actually usually look, for me, the best in costume. And you're seeing an array of body shapes and body sizes, and everyone is looking amazing. And the smiles are the smiles are almost glittering somehow. Everything is glittering, but the smiles are also glittering, as if people feel warmed from their hearts about.
And they feel like a big family, even if they are
somehow, yeah,
communities.
Absolutely. And you make a connection with people that's a different connection to just if you met them in a pub somewhere. And you have a connection that it's almost a thing you can't describe, because it's a thing of music, celebration, culture. It's actually an incredible thing. So yeah, it's one of the best things I've ever done in my life, is getting involved in this.
That's great. Great to hear that. Happy for you.
Thank you. This headpiece is from 2018. And it's really big. You can sort of see. It's really big. And my costume was black and red. And so my bikini was red leather. And the wings that I had were in the shape of a butterfly. So they were orange and black and red as well. Oh. And I had red trainers that I was wearing, red shoes.
And who's making the costumes? Where do you get them?
I don't know the full details of how the costumes are made. I believe the band has seamstresses involved, a whole team of people who create the headpieces, the wings, the main costumes as well. the fabrics are really dynamic and really exciting, always bright coloured. There's always gemstones and jewels and feathers and all kinds of things attached. And one time I helped out, and it was super meticulous, sticking down lots of little gems on the side. Everything had to be perfect. And the guy in charge, everything had to be perfect. It was very difficult. It takes hours. And even that one day of helping out gave me a full understanding. Well, it didn't even give me a full understanding, but definitely gave me a better understanding of the importance of the creative element. So not just the design of on a fashion sense, but the actual practical creation of this thing. It's not straightforward. Like, you can't buy this like this in a shop.
No.
All of these bits are put together. The red bit underneath, the splatters that are on the netting, the different parts of the headpiece that are made, the feathers that are sourced in a certain size and shape and color. It's very meticulous, and the detail is just exquisite. And when you look close up, I mean, you can look close up, or even from a distance here, you can see some of the gemstones fell off from dancing all day.
Of course.
But when you see the whole thing fully pristine and finished, it takes your breath away. It's fantastic. You feel so proud of this costume. You feel so proud of the hours of work have gone to the designing, and you can imagine the conversations that may have not always been easy to make decisions on which way something will look or go. We don't want to be the same as last year. We know this band did it like this. We want to make it our way. Lots of those sorts of things, because my band is very well known for being super innovative with some of the fabrics we use, like bubble wrap sometimes. Mm-hmm. And our designs are unique. We get our own fabric printed to make sure we don't get copied. So I got involved in playing mass with costume in 2016, and I'd ever seen the bands before, but I had no idea there was over 100 bands with costume. And I had no idea that most of those bands have more than 100 people. So the numbers of people wearing costume are thousands. I had honestly no real understanding of that before. And it's almost as if, unless you're really in there, maybe you also wouldn't know. So even as a carnival person that goes for maybe the sound system, or you go for the whole experience to walk along the streets or follow floats or what have you, there's definitely, I don't think carnival arts in the sense of playing mass gets anywhere near as enough as attention. And I know that in my band, obviously because of our innovative costumes, a couple of years ago, one of my carnival friends, a photo of her was on the front page of the Financial Times. I think 2 years ago, we were in the Metro, a London-based newspaper, and we were one of the top sets of costumes from Carnival. But in the way of the volume of bands, the intricacy and decoration, and the sheer incredible nature of these outfits, plus the thousands of people that wear costume, it definitely doesn't get the attention it deserves at all. And I don't really know what there is to do about that, or even if there is something to do, but it just strikes me a little bit that unless you're inside, you definitely wouldn't realize how special, how important
this thing is for you.
Yeah. From my understanding, carnivals, Carnival in London, Notting Hill Carnival, the history comes from the huge population of West Indian people who came over to the UK to help support various industries, setting up and supporting the NHS, for example, working in the transport system. Mm-hmm. The Windrush immigrants, I guess that's how people call it, from the Empire Windrush, the large ship many of them came on. And it's a thing around celebrating West Indian Caribbean culture in an extremely positive way. It's about celebration. It's about bringing people together from all the different islands. I'm learning more and more as the days go by about how many different islands there are in the West Indies and how their cultures are so different. Even the way that there's a different word in each island for the same vegetable. Even some of those things can sometimes be a bit hard to navigate. And you're thinking, oh, and the primary language is still English, or even a patois version of English, but you have the same vegetable and you're just calling it different names. It's so interesting. It's so interesting. So thinking about those things around language in that sense is fascinating. And to be honest, learning about Caribbean food is dangerous when you're not good at curbing your own appetite, because Caribbean food is all of the best things on one plate, basically. If you like vegetables and you're maybe vegetarian or vegan, there's so many options of different curries with chickpeas and vegetables. If you're someone who likes carbs, there's so many different types of dumplings. They call them bakes in some places, or they call them festival. So many different things to taste and try. It's I don't think I'll ever stop learning about all those cultures. And so for me as a white British person who's historically raised in West London but didn't know any of those things at the time of living there, I'm feeling more connected to my city, actually, understanding more about all of the intermingling of cultures that have come and contributed. So to me, Carnival is a thing for anyone who's a Londoner, because every part of what Carnival stands for is impacting on everyone's life, because, you know, music across London is all intermingling with Carnival music, whether you think of reggae or grime or drum and bass. All of those things are centered mostly around Black culture, and so there's a link there directly, quite easily, to Carnival.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure, my pleasure, and thank you for taking the time to talk with us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi.
Well,
Oh,
well, we could be here for the rest of the night unpicking that, but I think that message.
I think that just shows she's got it, hasn't she?
Yeah.
And you know, it's kind of, you know, and what you said about, you know, in the introduction, it wasn't it was weird because you were talking about a sort of yuppie-fied Notting Hill. My memories of London, because I moved out of London in the 60s and I went down to visit. I suppose I was visiting it continuously through the 80s, and you know, and Notting Hill for me was Portobello Road, the market, which was a whole mixture of cultures. You know, it was All Saints Road, where the Mangrove restaurant was, where it started, which was sort of culture shops, and ignored bits of Caribbean music, like Rapso, in the Uprising, the Trini shop that was opposite the Mangrove, and then, you know, I visited it later, and I thought, you know, like, you know, it was full of. It was like Bayswater Road had moved into, had taken over. And,
It's all antique shops and coffee shops now, John.
all right. Well, you can keep visiting me in Fields. Ain't my London.
Oh, man.
But it's great. It's been great. There is still, you know, there's one more bit of Carnival that has survived as UK Carnival outside, which is in Somerset, down in West, and they have a Carnival of Light, and it moves around seven towns around Somerset, and it's based, and it's in the autumn, so it gets dark, and it's like it's all it's a carnival of illuminations, and as far as I know, it hasn't been cancelled yet this year. I may be wrong, but keep an eye on it. That's so, you know, all those things intermingle, and it's just. But we've really had a good sense tonight. Thank you, Trevor. Well, thank you, children. You know, and
Nice
your
to
children,
virtually meet
but
you.
mainly your children.
Yeah.
and,
Baden, thanks. Thank you.
and I've got there is a brilliant poem called Play Mass, and I think is that a John Agar poem, Baden?
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to look it up. Yeah, and maybe we'll explore, you know, in later programs, different aspects of, you know, of of different islands' cultures, because you know, we kind of scraped into it this evening, you know. Well, but it's been good. It's been great. Has anyone got any questions? We've got Trevor here. Has anyone got any questions for him? He hates being put on the spot, so please do it. Please do put him on the spot.
Why is it so hard to get, you know, when you're in a room with a steel band, or you're up even on the street, and you got even a 12-piece or a 14 or 20-piece, that sound, that real earth-shaking, vibrant sound, it never transmits to when it's recorded.
No,
It's
you can't.
It's the weirdest thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You'll never hear what it is like to be there live. It's the frequencies as well. The frequencies are so, you know, deep. I mean, we've got the biggest pans, the 55-gallon drums. So, you know, the 6 bass, and when you play them, you can't even hear it when it's recorded back. When you play it back on computer or anything, because the frequencies are just so low. But like you say, that's the best feeling ever to have those. Because we did, like I say, at one time I had 19 pieces. So you can imagine that's quite a big room you've got to be in to fit all them in. But yeah, you can't capture it.
Yeah.
On, you know,
weirdest
even
thing.
and you're probably, you know, the Trinidad and Tobago carnivals, you just can't hear all of those, what all the bass and the guitar pans and the cellos and the tenors seconds are doing. But still, there you go.
Well, we got a bit of a flavour tonight. Bit of a flavour. Yeah, thanks to you. You know, I mean, just to have that, you know, actually, because you were using quite treble, you know, quite high pitched pans, it did record really well. You three sounded really good together.
Yeah. That was a rich sound.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I programmed sort of drum machine with bass on there as well, but you could just about hear what's going on there as well. So I do the engine room. That's why I'm not as good as them, because I've been doing all the other stuff as well. So yeah, all the percussion stuff that goes into steel band, you know, I cover that. But hopefully one day we will have the full unit back out on the road. I need to get a bigger van as well.
I got to say that, you know, the hat tonight is going to Baden, but he's not keeping the money. It's our man in Tobago, you know, at the moment he needs a rowing boat to get home.
He had his suitcase packed, ready to come back when lockdown came. He literally had his case packed, and he heard something was going on. Apparently rang his kids up here and said, you know, what's happening? I'm not too sure. And they said, Dad, stay where you are. That was in March, and he's still there now. But I'll tell you an idea the kind of person he is. He said to me, we were talking, and he said, you guys up there, this is a nice note to end on maybe. I hear you guys up there are really struggling with COVID-19. Well, down here, he said, we have a rum named VAT-19.
And I think on that note, but we're gonna pass anything that Baden gets in tonight is going to be passed on to our man in Tobago. So And so tonight we've had New Mexico, we've had Tobago, we've had whichever countries Trevor and Baden want to pretend they're in. And, had Romania, we've got Zuhar in, and yeah, Ali's with us down in North Africa and Morocco. So you know we've had we're a bit global tonight. So
Ashton's band was actually due to go to Mexico this year, but that's all off the cards as well.
Oh man!
So as a 9-piece funk band.
Wow.
Yeah, were you going to Mexico
with a great trombonist?
Were you going to Mexico with them?
Yeah.
But
there you go.
This
my
too will
heart bleeds
pass.
for you.
This too will pass.
I'm sorry for Ashton, you know, and my heart is bleeding for you. But but great. Anyway, look, thank you everyone. Thank you, Baden, for putting this together, because it's just without you, it just wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, nice one, Baden.
No, thanks. Nice
But
to meet you, brother.
a round of applause for Baden, everyone. There you go. Here's Bianca, of course, as always.
Oh,
being in charge of us. Without Bianca, it all falls
well
apart.
My pleasure to be helpful for you.
Good stuff.
Well, good night, everybody.
Okay,
Night.
take care.
Bye,
Stay
Jen. Bye,
safe.
Janet.
Right, play Mars in your
Thanks for coming by.
cubicles, in your bubbles.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Take care. Stay safe.